are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I am Larck, @boytank on Twitter, here to inform everybody today about the latest Auburn football news. Auburn got their quarterback, Jackson Arnold, yesterday. This happened in the morning. I was dead asleep and woke up about 30 minutes after it happened. So Jackson Arnold has officially signed with the Auburn Tigers, a top quarterback in the portal. I believe that On3 had him as like a top 10 quarterback. 24/7 has him as the 7th ranked quarterback in the this transfer portal class, one spot above a guy who I'll mention in just a little bit. I'm sure you can also guess who it's going to be in just a second. Teresa, how you doing in the comment section? See you over there. So, yeah, Jackson Arnold is the guy. And I'm on the fence about how I feel about it, really. It's a weird thing because I went into, this past week, I thought it was Malik Murphy. I thought Murphy was the better option. Of course, he wasn't as mobile as Arnold was. But I think Murphy, you got more production with less talent than you did with Jackson Arnold. And I understand what we saw from Jackson Arnold last year. He didn't have any receivers. But looking at last year, looking at what we saw from Jackson Arnold, it's the guy who lost his job early on in the year to Michael Hawkins, got his job back because Hawkins just wasn't it. Oklahoma is also in the dumpster in terms of players lost. They've lost a lot of players to the portal themselves. They've lost just so much. They lost their coordinator, brought in a new one who's should be a lot better, but he didn't fit the scheme that Jackson Arnold wanted to run. But it's such a hard thing to look at and choose to be excessively excited about. I think that talent-wise, he has what it takes. He's a 5-star plus guy, and I'll get to more of that in just a second. You saw some good, you saw some bad from him. You saw a lot of good in terms of, you watched him play Alabama and take down the Crimson Tide in this past season, helping secure their spot outside of the playoffs. But I just don't know if this was the complete right option. And I want to try to headspin this into a positive light, but I'm not sure if Auburn whiffed or what it was exactly. But I see the positives of getting him. But I think it's weird that you get a guy who has to develop. I thought you would get a 1-year guy who's ready to play right away, already had development elsewhere, ready to come in, step right into the playbook and into the scheme and just win games. Because you're going to 2025, you're going to the year 3 of the Hugh Freeze era, and you have to win. You're in win now mode. Year 3 cannot bode the same results as year 2 did because you took a step down. You didn't make it to postseason. You had one less win on your season because you didn't make it to bowl eligibility. Now you got to get 8 wins. I think 8 wins is like the spot to go at right now. Is like that when you look at the finish line or not really a finish line, but like a checkpoint. And that checkpoint tells you that you can keep going and your job's not on the line anymore. Auburn has to get 8 wins. And the schedule's not difficult in the slightest. I think that you go into the season, you had to hit 8 wins. Firefree says win now mode. Do we have any tackles? We actually do. We actually got one about 20-ish minutes before the show started. So not really 20 minutes, but like 30 minutes plus before the show started. So I'll go over him in just a second. But you got to attack the portal. This is not going to be the last quarterback Auburn gets. And again, I'm not fully sure that if it is the last quarterback Auburn gets, if Jackson Arnold is fully promised the starting job. But I mean, I'll go right into my meat and potatoes of today's episode, going over my pros and my cons of Jackson Arnold. And I mean, the pro right away. I mean, you're watching the kid play last year, seeing some of the highlights, and I can't say I fully watched Oklahoma play all season long, but the big thing here with Jackson Arnold is his dual threat ability. The ability to get out of the pocket and make a play with his legs. Against SEC competition, he had 75 yards rushing against LSU. He had 130 yards rushing against Alabama. He had 45 versus Missouri, 45 versus Maine. He had 39 versus Ole Miss. He did not have a good night versus South Carolina, had negative 29, but most is probably coming from getting sacked 8 times. He also got sacked 8 times versus Ole Miss, too. Put that in there, too, which is crazy that he had back-to-back games where he got sacked 8 times. Tennessee, that was the game that got him benched, where he just did not have a good game overall. Tulane, he had 97 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. And then the Houston and Temple didn't really run too much down the field because they got sacked 3 times in both those games. But Oklahoma was not in a good spot last year. They just weren't. I mean, that's probably where a lot of the negative attributes coming from with me when I look at this, look on tape here. He didn't have a good offensive line. And he also didn't have like half of his receiver core. Whenever he played Auburn, or whenever Oklahoma played Auburn, they were already on wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8 were all starters. Like, those were not guys that Jackson Arnold was playing with, practicing with. He was practicing with guys like Nick Anderson, who's now in the portal. Jalil Farouk, who was, I don't know if he's in the portal yet or not, but I presume a lot of these players from Oklahoma last year are going to be in the portal because of how their season just went. But when I look at what Auburn does and what Oklahoma did last year, now what they're going to want to do, because their new offensive coordinator, the guy from I can't remember his name now, I think it's Arbuckle from Washington State. He wants to run more of an air raid kind of offense, and that's not what Arnold does. He's going to be the guy who you want to plug and play into an RPO system. He wants to play the RPO. That's why that's what not Ole Miss, but Mississippi State and Auburn were the 2 options. Jeff Lebby was more of an RPO guy, and of course he was the guy that recruited him to Oklahoma. And then you got Auburn, and Hugh Freeze loves running the RPO so much that it basically killed some of Auburn's momentum in some of these games because it was run so improperly. But a big con here is when it comes to decision making in the RPO, as much as Jackson Arnold loves to run the RPO and play in the RPO system, he had a lot of plays last year where he made mistakes in the RPO. He made the wrong read. He kept it when he should have passed it. He passed it when he should have ran it. And hopefully with I guess a spring, a summer, and some fall practices, you get the picture with that. I was watching the World Pour this afternoon, and they had a guy, I can't remember his name. I know his name's Jay from Locked On Sooners, and he talked about how when the decision's already made for him, that might help him out a lot. And that's something that kind of worries me when you look at a guy who needs to be the X factor quarterback that wins these games for Auburn. Auburn had a lot of games last year. I don't think Peyton, on paper, if you look at Peyton Thorne's season, he didn't have a bad season on paper. But when you watched him on the tape, when you watched him in the game, he made decisions that didn't help Auburn win the game. I won't say that lost Auburn the game, but it didn't help them win. And if you got to keep coaching up your guys, I mean, you're getting a guy who's a redshirt sophomore, not mistaken. I don't think did he play? I don't know. Can't remember if he played in 4 games, 23 or not. But you're getting a guy who has 2 years of eligibility left at the minimum. You can't have every week you have to coach up. You have to coach your quarterback better. You got to coach this guy better. You got to do this better. You got to get this guy better. It gets old after a while because at what point are you? It's either your coaching ain't working or he's not taking notes in practice. That was the issue with last year. Is we got to do this better. We got to do this better. We got to do this better. Well, when the things you're doing in week 1 are the same issues we see in week 7, whose fault is that? Is it the coaching issue? Is it a player issue? You have to understand that. Fire Freeze, Arnold played in 7 games in 2023, so he just didn't have a red shirt then. So they cost him a red shirt then because Dylan Gabriel was flat out the starter there. But I guess Dylan Gabriel did get hurt last year. So I guess, yeah, I'm not going to front too much. So yeah, 2 years of eligibility remaining, which calls into question some other news we'll go over in a second. You can probably tell on the bar over there. So yeah, the decision-making is going to be an issue. I don't like the idea of having pre-designed decisions already called for the quarterback. Like, I get your first read should be this. Your second read should be this. Your third read should be that. But at what point are you can't make the reads for your quarterback during the play? I mean, the headset thing that they put in the helmets now, that stops after a certain while. Now, when the ball snapped, the coach can't talk to the quarterback about who to throw the ball to. And if that first read's not there, if you're coaching him up that RPO play needs to be this automatically, like as soon as when you go to hand off the ball and you pull it, and you go throw the ball right away. Well, if that gets locked up, I mean, that's how you get mistakes made. He's not making decisions for himself. And I hated it last year when the RPO, I mean, I thought Peyton Thorne didn't need to have the option to go in it. If you're going to another year where you have a quarterback who can't make the option like reads, that's an issue. But I mean, if he wants to play in the system, I won't front him. I think that there's a lot of again, more positives to take from, or some positives to take from just his game in general. Which another pro I have is when you watch Jackson Arnold play, when you see Jackson Arnold on the field, when you watch some of the plays that he does, when you see how he can run around in the pocket and try to avoid sacks and make plays on his legs and make down the field passes while running out of the pocket, scared for his life by a bad offensive line, he looks a lot like Bo Nix. And I see that as a massive win for a comparison for him, as comparing him to Bo Nix, because Bo Nix was a really good quarterback at Auburn. I'll be one of the Bo Nix truthers out there in the world. If there's one Bo Nix fan out there in the Auburn fan base, it is I. I was upset when Bo Nix left. I hated it when he left. And it pretty much set Auburn back 20 years quarterback-wise. When Bo Nix left Auburn, it set Auburn back so far with the quarterback position that they've never recovered from it. Or at least they haven't yet. So now you're going into year 3 of the freeze era. You got a quarterback who plays a lot like Bo Nix. Able to make plays, able to have some highlight plays. Well, and with Bo Nix, early Bo Nix, you took the good and the bad. And there was a lot of good to take with Bo Nix. And I think there's a lot of solid plays to take from Jackson Arnold, regardless of some of the bad that went with it. And of course, my con for this is that kind of circles back around everything. I mean, the biggest con for me for him, we don't fully know what Jackson Arnold is. We don't. We saw him get a start versus in the bowl game last year versus Arizona, and he looked great at times, but he looked bad at times. He had 4 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions. And you went into this year, and he had 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Didn't play a lot because he got benched, but you didn't see a full season out of Jackson Arnold, and you didn't get to see a lot of talent around him last year. So that's the big thing with him is you didn't get to see what Jackson Arnold fully is. And in one way that helps his case, another way it hurts his case, because Auburn needs the X Factor guy. Auburn needed Cam Ward last year. If it was a 1-year rental, fine. But Cam Ward wins Auburn probably 2 to 3 more games. You probably beat Cal. You beat Arkansas, and you beat Oklahoma. The bare minimum. I would even say you beat Vanderbilt. You get 4 more wins. With probably Missouri. And you lose to Bama and Georgia. And you 10-2 with Cam Ward. And you can even probably flip that around and say they beat Alabama or they beat Georgia. Yeah. Auburn could have gone to the playoffs if they had Cam Ward. We don't know, but we don't know what that world looks like. But you waited around. Now you have this guy coming in who doesn't have the highlight reel that Cam Ward had at Washington State. And he had a terrible team that somehow still made it to a bowl game that Auburn didn't get a chance to go to. I think that's the biggest knock on Jackson Arnold as a player, is the fact that our Oklahoma was so bad that we didn't get to see Jackson Arnold. And whether I'm super pro Jackson Arnold being the quarterback next year or super against it, I can confirm that Auburn, we don't have the full picture of what Jackson Arnold is as a quarterback. And of course, that brings me to my last pro and my last point to be made on Jackson Arnold, the upside. Now, going into 2025, this is probably the most important year thus far of the Freeze era. Is this third year? You got to show the results. You need results on the field. You went 6-7 year one. You went 5-7 year two. You can't go 7-5. 7-5 won't cut it. 8-4 is the magic number, and you need to see what other. You have to add more players to the portal from the portal, regardless. But Jackson Arnold was a 5-star plus quarterback 2 years ago. Like he was when I say 5-star plus, I mean he was a dog in high school. I remember here's some stuff about his tape. He was highly recruited by everybody. Probably could have just named a school and they would have given him a scholarship because they didn't know he wanted to go there. If Hugh Freeze can do what he said he can do, which is develop quarterbacks, him and Kent Austin both, if they can develop Jackson Arnold, he's already got 2 years of experience, one in the Big 12, one in the SEC at the same school. If you can untap what Jackson Arnold is and has within him, talent-wise, this raises the ceiling for Auburn football in 25. Like fully. I mean, it does. He has the talent. He is a talented quarterback that just has had a rough go of coordinators, of just offenses in general. Had to be the backup in year one, still got to play a lot, didn't get the chance to redshirt. And then year two, terrible coordinator, terrible head coach, and then health issues across the entire roster offensively. You had a young offensive line. You got sacked 34 times. 2 games I mentioned earlier. You had got sacked 16 times between 2 games. But the potential that you can get with Jackson Arnold, Auburn has a better wide receiver core than Oklahoma does. And to go with Jackson Arnold contemplated going to Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby, Auburn has a better wide receiver core than Mississippi State. Now, with the addition that you just made, who I'll mention in a little bit, you got some beef up front to help protect them from getting sacked 34 times. You got to bring in another weapon, though. Does the potential that you can get with Jackson Arnold bring you another wide receiver? You have to get at least one guy to kind of help adjust to the catches and the yards that you're going to be missing with Keanu Lambert-Smith gone to the NFL. So that's the big question here is, can Hugh Freeze develop Jackson Arnold into the quarterback that he is able to be? If that grammar checks out there. The potential for Jackson Arnold is sky high. There's not a limit to what he can do as a quarterback. And what he's able to do with his legs, what he's able to do to extend plays. That's something that Hugh Freeze needs in his offense. And if he can do it while being composed, while not, trusting his offensive line mostly, Auburn can win football games that they're either not supposed to win or games they should have won last year that they have a chance to win this year if they just have exceptional quarterback play. This offseason will tell the world about Hugh Freeze and his ability to develop quarterbacks. Because now you're being given a 5-star plus caliber quarterback who basically had 2 years of his college career wasted because of Brent Venables. Just bad offense all around. I know Brent Venables was in charge of the offense, but he hired a bad offensive coordinator and then just terrible, terrible offense over there at Oklahoma, which is a rare thing to see. But yeah, I truly think Jackson Arnold can be great, but watching Auburn this past year, it's hard to tell fully what he can be. Spring practice, got to be ready for that. Auburn still has to pick up a couple more guys because as we're going to get to, and prior, I do go ahead and do it right now. Auburn now down if you count Peyton Thorne, a 4th quarterback this offseason. 1 to graduation, and 3 you lost to the portal. Holden Garner, expected. Fully knew that was going to happen. Everyone and their mother knew that Holden Garner was gone. He was not coming back to this team. He was a Brian Harsin guy through and through. I would not be shocked at all. I don't even know if he's even been predicted to go anywhere yet. That'd be interesting to see. I'm actually wanting to look into that though. That would not shock me in the slightest if he was to go to Cal. Malik Murphy's still getting predictions from On3 to go to Auburn though, which I think On3 or not On3, but I think Malik Murphy would have been the primary option for me though. That'd be for me. Ashton Daniels, still haven't heard anything about him. Where's Holden Garner at? Is he even ranked anywhere around here? I can't find him anywhere. So yeah, I'd be interested to see where he goes. But yeah, Walker White has officially entered the NCAA transfer portal, which shocked the world, including myself. And plugged in, I'll go ahead and mention this. This is not why he's not leaving to be with his mom. That was something that got rumored and then blew up everywhere. He's Warport mentioned this. Mike G. I'll go even get Mike G's tweet up just to read it from the primary source of the of words are hard again. Just facts in general. Mike G said earlier during the Warport, Walker White is not transferring due to his mother's health. Mrs. Amy is doing well and continuing to kick her cancer in the butt. Everyone, please continue to pray for her, but don't use her name in this way. So yeah, he's not transferring out to get closer to his mom. Mike G said this on the show. I'll quote Mike G because he's a great source. He football reasons. I would like to believe, and now this is where I get started the speculation thing. With Jackson Arnold coming in, Jackson Arnold has 2 more years of eligibility left, and that would mean if Jackson Arnold was there for the next 2 years at Auburn, Walker White would be going into his junior year without him seeing the field, which kind of concerns me that he didn't just stick around and be the backup. I think he could have been quarterback too. I genuinely think that Walker White could have gone in 2025 as QB2, despite whoever Auburn brought in after Jackson Arnold. I think he still had every opportunity and more to battle it out with Jackson Arnold. I think he had every opportunity to, take on whoever he brought in after Arnold. I mean, I think whoever Auburn brought in, regardless, was going to be quarterback 1. Like, that's the big thing there is whoever Auburn brought in first. Like Jackson Arnold, you automatically assume he's going to be quarterback 1. And then after that, you got to fill out the spots after that. But it concerns me that he saw that there might not be room for him, and he might not get in as quarterback 2, and he might have to go back as quarterback 3 next year, and he didn't want to deal with that. And something that I think Fire Freeze just mentioned feels like a broken relationship between Freeze and Austin and the quarterback room at large. I mean, you lose your entire quarterback room from last year. That speculation is going to happen. It really is. Because you lost all the trust you had with Hank Brown when you took him out of the game versus Arkansas. You never really had that trust with Holden Garner. I'm surprised he even played or was on the team this year. He just wanted the degree, which can't fault him for getting the Auburn degree. It's the best school ever, if you ask me. And then you lose Walker White, who just doesn't feel like he's going to be automatically given the quarterback 2 job or walk into the year with a chance to battle out for the starting gig. So it's 2 schools of thought. It's do you think that Walker White doesn't want to compete for the quarterback job? I don't think that's what it is. Walker White's a gamer. Watching his tape, dude's a dog. And whoever gets him is going to be excited that Walker White goes to play for him. But there's also the question mark of did Hugh Freeze just flat out ignore Walker White in total and decide he didn't want to give him a shot? The next best thing is the next best thing. Your last year's news, we have Deuce Knight. We have this guy. I'd be shocked to see. I can't wait to see where he goes, but it would surprise me if it was an issue with losing trust with you and your coach, between him and his coach. And again, I wish Walker the best of luck. It shocked me fully whenever I heard the news. I was enjoying a nice lunch, and that lunch got ruined because I had to make a graphic for Walker White. Was not expecting it to happen. I don't know anybody who was expecting it to happen. But yeah, I truly hope that the trust was not broken between a coach and a quarterback, because that's going to be rough. Because now I think you got to get another quarterback to go alongside the other quarterback you got to get, to go alongside Jackson Arnold. Now you got to find a guy who wants to come to Auburn to be the second string. I believe Ashton Daniels can still be that guy. And then you got to find another guy who wants to come to Auburn to be a third string guy. Because I don't know if you put Deuce Knight into that spot quite yet. Deuce Knight, quarterback of the future, 5-star quarterback. You know, the graphic said it all before Walker White transferred out. But Deuce was never going to be the quarterback in 2025. He was always going to be 26, depending, or 27 was going to be when you started looking towards Deuce Knight, which I have a whole conversation. I'm going to do the conversation about Deuce Knight tomorrow about the number 2 thing. That's going to be my conversation. That's going to be my little rant session tomorrow for the Tuesday show. But yeah, best of luck to Walker White. I mean, he's seen as a highly touted quarterback recruit in the portal. He's a 4-star quarterback per on 3. I'm kind of wondering where exactly. I think he's rated higher than Hank Brown, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he is, actually, because Hank Brown has officially committed to Iowa. And again, I've just not seen Holden Garner anywhere on here. But yeah, I wish the best of luck. I hope that the trust was not broken between Hugh Freeze and that entire quarterback room, because that's a rough go at things in terms of just, are you going to ruin that with everybody else? Or are you going to lose trust with the team? At what point do I have to start getting worried about my favorite football team's ability to maintain talent? Because Auburn's already lost some players to the portal. A good chunk of players. Some of them I would classify as shocking. Or not shocking, but surprising, I guess is a better term there. But yeah, again, I can't overstate best of luck to Walker White and his future endeavors. Just hate that whatever happened, and Auburn is down to only 2 quarterbacks remaining for scholarships. With, I believe, Jackson Arnold will get a scholarship, and then Deuce Knight, of course. But yeah, that truly does suck. Really does suck in total. But as we move on with the show, some transfer portal news outside of the quarterback position. Auburn picked up a couple of commits yesterday as well. You're also looking at an update. So I made a mistake a couple days ago. I bit on, I don't think it was bait or anything, but I took some news that Phoenix Jackson committed to Auburn, which he did. He committed to Auburn. But Auburn didn't know he did. So Phoenix Jackson wanted to come to Auburn from what I know from the knowledge. So don't go based off what I say. Do your own research. But this is just what I found while I was looking it up, because someone like sent me a DM, said, hey, this is not official yet. This just news broke before Auburn even knew about it, really. So Phoenix Jackson, Fresno State linebacker, talked about him on the Tuesday show. He committed to Auburn without ever really visiting Auburn. So Auburn wanted him to visit first, and then he could have committed, I guess. But no news yet on him officially committing. But he did say today or yesterday that Auburn was like a dream to him. So he still does love Auburn. So I would love to see whenever he actually does commit. But yeah, that was a mistake on my part, taking that into account. Auburn also has only lost 1 player since last time we've seen each other. Laquan Robinson entered the transfer portal, linebacker / safety. This one struck a nerve for me a little bit. Laquan Robinson was a highly touted JUCO guy that I was super excited to see play. I didn't get to see a lot of him last year. And they moved him from safety to linebacker so he can get more playing time. I presume he probably didn't like that very much, the transition of players, but it also has something to do with Auburn going after multiple positions in the transfer portal to go alongside. That's the second safety that Auburn has lost to the transfer portal this offseason. So if you want to count him as a safety, at least, he's a linebacker to that as well. But Auburn did pick up a couple more commits this weekend in running back Darrell Robinson a running back out of UConn last year for the Huskies, rushed for 731 yards, had 8 touchdowns, and averaged 6.8 yards per carry. He is 6'1", 200 pounds, so is giving Auburn a power back to mesh in with the running back by committee. I thought if Auburn got a running back, they would only get one. I think this is the one. You add him in with Damari Alston, who is your do-it-all back. Cobb, I've still heard people say they're scared that Cobb might transfer out, but if you keep Cobb, he's your your end round back. So you got a guy who's a speed back and I'll do it all back and a power back with Darrell Robinson. Ultimately, I think Darrell's a massive pickup as well. You're not going to fill the hole of Jarquez Hunter. Jarquez Hunter is a once in a lifetime caliber talent. But in a way, I think Auburn did need a running back to kind of fill out the running back committee. I don't think you wanted to put in you didn't want to put Alvin Henderson in year one. You always want to give a gap year to get him prepared, to get him ready for the SEC. But I think Darrell's a great pickup. He seems super excited to come to Auburn. He's already changed his profile picture to him in Jordan-Hare Stadium. You can even see the crane in the background for him. So yeah, super excited to see what he can do. I haven't watched a ton of film on him. It's kind of hard to find UConn film. But I watched some plays against that he took against Rice because he had a great game versus Rice. Because his best games of the year were against Rice and Florida Atlantic. He had 130 plus yards in both those games, 150 against FAU, and had 2 touchdowns against FAU. What concerns me, this is where I'm I don't know how to judge it based off of the film because I haven't seen all the film on him yet. Is against Power 4 opponents, he didn't have the best days, which I don't know if that meant they passed the ball more in those games or what exactly it was. I went to Wake Forest, and that one looks like they passed the ball a lot. They only had 25 carries. He was also in a committee of running backs as well. But yeah, they passed the ball 43 times against Wake Forest, but he rarely got over 20 yards against some of these P4 teams. He got 34 against Maryland. Hopefully that's more of a scheme issue than that, but I think overall from what I've seen from him, very talented back. So glad to see Auburn getting a power back to mesh in with what they have already in place. But yeah, I think Damari Alston still will be the number one guy going into 2025. Another pickup Auburn got was a punter, which I'm sure everyone is super excited about that. Oscar Chapman is gone. Auburn had a lot of special teams issues last year. Pick up punter out of Oklahoma State, Hudson Cack. Got from Oklahoma State last year. 30 punts, 43.1 yards per punt average last year. Had a long of 51. In his career, he had 54 yards was his long. Great pickup in the sense of Auburn needed a punter bad. You needed one bad. You have John L. McGuire, but I don't think Auburn was going to put a true freshman at punter right away. I think that would not have been a good idea. Don't put any more true freshmen out there on the field. Wait for them to get some experience and then put them in, which was the issue last year for Auburn. But Auburn kind of got forced into a bad situation with the health of McPherson and having to put Magoo out there. So hopefully Hudson's going to be a good pickup for Auburn to kind of help with the special teams issues. Hopefully don't got to see him too much. I would love it if Auburn never punted. But regardless of a need nonetheless. And then the newest signee or committee, whichever one it's going to be, Auburn picks up a top 10 player out of the portal, number 1 overall tackle in the portal, and Xavier Chaplin. I'm not sure how to exactly pronounce it quite yet, but Chaplin, nonetheless, 6'3". Not mistaken. It went somewhere. But yeah, a big dude to put in the offensive line right away. Left tackle out of Virginia Tech. So a great pickup overall. Getting a guy who probably is going to play right away, if I'm not mistaken. He is just a dog. I pulled up PFF, pulled up some stats about him. With 315 snaps pass blocking, he gave up 2 sacks. And that's super exciting. I mean, the ACC is, the ACC, but to only give up 2 sacks on a year is a great stat line to have alongside yourself. So, yeah, goes in right away. I think you got your left tackle right away. He comes in, plugs in, and you're giving your quarterback an offensive line that he can play behind. Because if it's Jackson Arnold, he didn't have it last year, and then whoever else it could be, Auburn needs to have an offensive line that is trustworthy to their quarterback. Auburn can't have any more 30 sack seasons or inability to make key blocks when needed to. That was an issue last year, especially with Percy Lewis. Hopefully this does not turn into another Percy Lewis situation that Auburn had last year. Percy Lewis was a massive bust out of the portal. And then that's pretty much all the commits Auburn's gotten so far. Auburn's still trying to get a receiver. I believe CJ Daniels was a one guy that's been coming up a lot, as well as Eric Singleton, of course, number 1 player in the portal out of Georgia Tech. It looks like it's between Auburn and Ole Miss, based on predictions. 24/7 has some predictions for Ole Miss. On 3 has some for both. So yeah, Auburn needs to pick up a wide receiver just to add to the room in general. So yeah, I think you're looking at that. You're also looking at a guy in CJ Daniels out of LSU, another guy who's been linked towards Auburn, and a few other guys all around the place looking for new homes. And Auburn could be a potential place for everybody. But yeah, a couple tackles Auburn's been looking at, trying to get positions all around the place. And again, you got to win this year. You got to. So yeah, that's all the portal news to talk about today. Of course, hopefully we'll probably have some more news before the Tuesday show break out. Hopefully no more transfer portal outs. I think Auburn's, Laquan Robinson sucked because I thought he was such a great player coming in. And was super excited to see him develop with Auburn. Caleb Wooden, I think, was the biggest one that was like a shocker to me that hurt a little bit in terms of what Auburn's going to look like moving forward. But I think the freshmen that played last year were just so good that it's not like a massive blow to lose those guys. So I'm not surprised by a lot of the players Auburn lost to the portal, but you got to make up some ground. You got to get some guys. You have a quarterback. Now you got to sell your offense to the next star player you're trying to get out of the portal. You got a running back. You got a tackle. Need a wide receiver. You probably need a tight end. I haven't even heard any tight ends really. And then defensively, linebacker, which Phoenix Jackson could be a good pickup if he ends up actually committing. And I don't even know. There's the defensive back is such a tough one to go at. It could be a 1 or 2 thing for Auburn. Fire Freeze, Michael Riley, and TJ Lindsey surprised me. TJ Lindsey did surprise me a little bit, I guess. Michael Riley didn't, because I think he never really he saw the 2 guys that brought in, Ryan Gee and Hollis Davidson, and of course you added the fact that Auburn didn't utilize tight ends a lot outside of Rivaldo Fairweather. And if Micah was going to be the guy going into next year, I loved Micah. I thought he was going to be a breakout player at some point. Opportunity to do that somewhere else. But I just don't think he thought that the scheme was tight end friendly. So yeah, I wish them the best of luck. As long as, again, I wish everybody the best of luck when they leave Auburn. As long as they don't go to Georgia or Alabama, I wish them the best of luck wherever they go. But we're going to go quick little break. Let's have this break. We're going to wrap up the show by talking some Auburn men's basketball, who had a just phenomenal game yesterday versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. So stay tuned, and we will be right back. Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes, looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program. Of course, that's on thewarreport.com, but go to the shop. First page, college loop hat. Second page, Feelin' Loopy t-shirt. It's kind of items you're going to wear your entire life. And of course, that's only one way you can support the show. The best way you support the show is, of course, by liking, by commenting, and by subscribing. Leave your thoughts on Jackson Arnold. What do you think he can bring to the table for Auburn 2025? Does he raise the ceiling? Does he raise the floor? And, of course, can Auburn win 8 games in 2025? So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Of course, liking and subscribing as well as you're doing that. Auburn basketball yesterday afternoon took on the Ohio State Buckeyes in Holiday Hoops Giving, and they put a beat down on some Buckeyes. 91-53 is the win. Number 2 Auburn, who should be number 1 by every standard, by every ranking system out there. Auburn's number 1 team in the country. The AP poll, it's old science, doesn't really work. Don't trust anything. Auburn got a massive win. Continue to prove that they're the number 1 team in the country. Janai Broome, I mean, dude, if you're not watching Auburn basketball, I know what you're doing. Janai Broome is the best player in college basketball, and I don't even think it is remotely close. In 26 minutes yesterday, 9 of 18 from the field, 20 rebounds, and 21 points. A 20-point double-double. First time it's happened for an Auburn Tiger since 1989. He also added that with 3 blocks. He had 6 assists, and he had a steal. Continuing to prove that he's just the greatest player in the country right now. He is a dude. Dylan Cardwell also had a great game as well. Almost had a double-double for himself. 10 points, 8 rebounds. Also had 4 blocks and 2 assists. And then you had third leading scorer Denver Jones, who put on a clinic from the 3-point line. Shot 4 of 5 from the arc. Scored 14 points. Also had a rebound and an assist. Then off the bench, you had Ja'Kai Howard, who had a little coming out party. 11 points for him and a block. And then after that, you had some 8s out of Chad Baker-Mazar and Miles Kelly. 5s out of Chaney Johnson, Jaheim Hudson. And then, of course, got to mention Tahad Pettiford with a solid 9. 3 of 4 from the 3-point line for him. 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal for Tahad Pettiford. Auburn, again, just a really, really good team. Solid all around. Very few weak spots for Auburn. Of course, last night they shot like it was nobody's business. 13 of 30 from the 3-point line, which is good for 43% of the time. Shot 45% from the field. Had a great night from the free throw line. 85% from the free throw line. Out-rebounded Ohio State 49-28. Out-assisted them 18-7. And out-blocked them 13-4 as well. Just great game overall. Held Ohio State, one of the best shooting teams in the country from the 3-point line. Held them to under 40%. They were at 37%, 6-16. They did not shoot well from the free throw line. They shot 57% from the free throw. 35% from the field. Again, just an overall great game. Auburn had a shooting slump in the middle of this game, too. For about 6.5 minutes, Auburn could not score a bucket. They were just throwing up shots just to throw up shots. And still came out with the dub. Again, up next, the Auburn, again, their schedule never gets any easier. But they have Georgia State next in just a couple of days. We'll preview that on the Tuesday show because that'll be the day of the game. And after that, you got to wait till 12/21, December 21st, which I will be in Charlotte, North Carolina during that game, but I will try to watch it nonetheless. Probably a pre-recorded live stream for that next Sunday. I'll be in Charlotte watching the Panthers play because I hate myself after today's win or after today's loss to the Cowboys. But yeah, super excited for Auburn basketball going forward. Again, just they're already a number 1 seed everywhere. I don't think they're going to be moving from that spot anytime soon. The SEC, toughest conference in sports in general. A lot of teams are ranked. Auburn has a stretch of games where they got to play the number 1 team. They got to go to LSU, the 19, 13, and 9. Then at Vanderbilt and the number 7. And then around the year, they had to play 19, 5, 17, and 7 back to back. So this season is going to get tougher, but I think Auburn has a roster to take it down. I don't know if Auburn just only has 1 loss in the year. I think they take some hard falls at some point. But overall, I mean, this team is really, really, really good. And dare I say, the best Freeze team we've seen during the Freeze era. Just not a lot of weaknesses to this team. They can shoot the ball. They're lights out whenever they get hot. The only issue this team really has, and I guess we go back to the don't have much weaknesses. The biggest weakness is they have points of the game where they get cold, and then they just start throwing up shots just to see something go in. That's like the biggest weakness to this team. But if that's the only weakness that you have, I think you're in a good headspace. So super excited to see the rest of the season. Can't wait for that Purdue game. That's going to be a fun one. And then, of course, you got a game after that against Monmouth at home. And then that next week after that, you got to play Missouri, start SEC conference play. And then that's going to be the remainder of your season all the way up until March Madness. So, yeah, super excited for that. Super excited for Auburn basketball in general. If you're not watching Auburn basketball, I don't know what you're doing. It's so much more enjoyable to watch than Auburn football was last year. So super excited for that. And just what Janai Broome is doing. Go ahead and just give him the award for the Naismith Player of the Year award. Just go ahead and give it to him. He's already deserved it. He already got it. So, yeah, locked up. Already has Janai Broome's name etched into it. It's already his. Just go ahead and just mail it in to him. So Auburn can go ahead and put it in the trophy case. I think we're at the point where we can almost talk about retiring Janai Broome's number. I think he's been that good for a long enough time to give him that. So I may be bugging a lot. I may be bugging a little bit, but I honestly think he is one of the best players Auburn has ever seen, just ever. So that being said, that does it for this episode of the College League Podcast. I want to thank everybody for watching. At one point, we had like 85 people watching the show. That's crazy. I support everybody who decided to stop in. On your way out, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can do this all the time. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and then live streams every Sunday. But not next Sunday. We'll probably do a pre-recorded show for that. Update everybody on everything going on around Auburn athletics. But of course, all being said, thanks for watching the summit of the College League Podcast. Thank you, Grover Garrett. I can agree. I think it was a good show as well. So, yeah, thanks for watching the summit of the College League Podcast. Of course, check us out social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works. All those at The College Loop. Check me out on Twitter as well, at your boy the Tank, at YABOY the Tank. Instagram as well, at Dylanlarck, at DYLENLARCK. Some big news coming out of my personal life in a day or so. So, can't wait to share it with everybody around with the loopers. You know, my at this point, let me just get an exact number here. All 928 of my closest friends, all around the place. I love and thank all of you for the constant support y'all give the show over here at the College Loop Podcast. And of course, thank you to everybody at the War Report as well for giving the College Loop a shot. So with that being said, thanks for watching the College Loop Podcast. And as always, War Eagle, and I guess, we got a quarterback now.